Okay, happy Friday to all. Great to have you with us here, hanging out with us on a Friday, summer Friday, July 24th, 2026. Before we begin, we know how we start every day with the requisite disclaimers. NFA Compliance Rule 2-29C, subparagraph 1. Past performance not indicative of future results, and trade with money you can afford to donate. Kind of refer to the monies that I lose more as a donation. I like to think of it as a charitable donation to the educational fund as opposed to losing. It's a little bit more palatable when I think about it as a donation. Okay, let's see what we have on deck here today. It is a cycle day 3. Let's take a look at the recent activity as a quick review. And again, I haven't changed any of the notations that I have on the chart here, just for purposes of transparency. So today here is a cycle day 3. And as you can see, we've been talking about that the market's been in this range for quite some time. Right, we had an upper distribution here, so kind of zoom out a little bit. I know the chart looks a little bit messy. Actually, let's do this. Let's clean it up a little bit. Where am I? There we go. We'll clean it up a little. Oh, here we go. I need to do this too. Both of them. All right. Yeah, it cleans it up a little bit. But anyways, you can see upper distribution, this range here. Okay, we'll kind of block it out. And then the market moved lower, and then it created, kind of this range right here. So we were talking about this as this, again, this is only a 5-day distribution over here on the far right. So, but if we were to include further data, we would have, remember, we had this upper distribution kind of over here, if you recall. Everybody recall that? Right, we had that upper distribution over here. We were talking about the 50s, 60s area, right? So that's no longer showing on the profile because this is only a 5-day. All right, but again, if you can visualize that, so once this broke, all right, once this upper distribution broke, then we started getting into this range, right, over the past 5 days or so. And then, of course, yesterday we broke a lower. And the interesting part of that was when we get these larger breaks, you just need to go to the larger time periods to find out where potential key levels are. And one of the key levels, and I did post it into the room yesterday before we got there, was the 74.15s, and that was the prior monthly virgin point of control. Virgin just means it had not been touched. Well, it's no longer a virgin, right? It's been touched. But that was the prior monthly VPOC at 74.15. So again, we're trying to outline, these kind of key areas, and market finally did get a response right off of that. Okay, that's great. We ended up getting a bounce back up again. And if you again notice this, right? This was what's interesting about when we start framing these areas out. And this is, again, I encourage you to do this, right? So you remember, we're framing these areas out. All right, there's our kind of new the 70s. All right, we were talking about that this past week. And of course, we broke down to that next level. And then now notice here in the overnight, where did it return to? The 70s, 65, 70s. Okay, that was one of our targets that we had on the daily trade strategy. So um, again, you should be noticing some pattern of how I write the daily trade strategy and the levels that I choose for targets, right? Again, this is not magic. What I'm trying to do is outline it and show you how to do it even for yourself if you're interested in doing that. But again, one of the ways I'm looking at is in terms of targets and so forth. I'm not really, I'm not pulling the rabbit out of the hat, right? I'm looking at where prices have um, responded in the past, perhaps multiple tests, multiple touches, areas, zones. I'm looking for changes, shifts from various areas. And then, so like as for instance, this move down yesterday, and then the daily trade strategy notes for today, the upper targets zone started around 65s. Okay, so I think I had 65, 75, 85. Again, I'm usually going to be in around 10-point increments. All right, that's just works out pretty well. Right. Again, I'm not trying to pinpoint every single level like some folks out there. I'm just trying to get more zonal areas. But again, when you think about it, like price broke, and then so then you ask, you're just asking the question, well, if price rallies, where would be an initial rally point? Again, that's what I ask myself. Though I don't state it out loud, I am here for purposes of education. But that's what I'm looking for. Well, I'm going to look backwards. I'm going to look to the left of previous activity, and I can say, well, where was price being supported or responding from, right? The buyers responding, and where did that change, right? Everybody's following me in terms of just outlining it, and you can do this exact same thing. And there you go, right? So we got the break from the 70s, 65, 70s, right? And then now, if the market were to move back higher, where would at least market come back up to? Right? 65, 70s, 75s in that area. Does that make sense? So it's not really rocket science, guys. Right? I'm just really just looking at where prices, responded before. Other kind of notations I'll look for is, high volume node areas, sometimes the lower volume node areas, things like that. All right. So that's kind of where the price is of this action right now. Now, today being a cycle day 3, we have a fairly rare occurrence that price now is currently below the cycle day 1 low. Now again, I always state that don't rule out just because we're on cycle day 3 and we're currently below the cycle day 1 low that the price is unlikely to recover. All right. Now it may not recover this time. We don't know. So we have to kind of monitor as the activity throughout the day, take it one step at a time. But I would not be surprised, and I even in the past, the market has been, this is not that far, maybe 50 handles or so. That's really not that far. We've seen prices, a distance of like nearly 100 handles and then recover the cycle day 1 low. Granted, not the strongest of cycles, but the recovery in terms of the statistic. Okay, remember the statistic that 93.18% currently is price being above the cycle day 1 low on cycle day 3. So that's not happened yet. I'm not saying it's going to, right? This, this with the weakness of particularly the techs recently. Again, wouldn't be surprised if we finally do have a failure, right? But again, it's a rare occurrence. So, over time, I mean, we're going to have positive cycles certainly again, 93% of the time. All right, um, Oris asks, is it significant for kind of an overall shift? One failure isn't. If we tend to have two sequential failures, okay, three sequential tends to be rare. All right, I mean I have to really go back a while to get three in a row that 3-day cycle fails. Um, it has happened certainly, but I don't recall that happening anytime recently. But so again, using the cycle, it's more two in a row times. Okay, so two in a row was 9 times since 2009. There you go. All right, so since 2009. Thanks, Rom. All right, so only twice in a row. Excuse me, 9 times over since 2009. Yeah, okay, got it from Richard. All right, he has all the stats on that. So again, 3 in a row is, I don't need, super rare. But again, even when we have 2 in a row, what typically will happen is you're going, we'll get some deep, moves, and then we'll get like a strong rebound. Remember, the market is still biased to the long side. It's the way the indexes are constructed. Most often, bear markets are not that. I mean, look at how many bear markets over the years. A pullback is not a bear market. All right. So, anyways, um, we don't need to kind of figure that out, particularly what we do intraday. If you're looking to, position for a swing or something like that, that's a little bit of a different story. But we would still be looking for, kind of good opportunities to maybe put a call option on. I don't have any call options on this cycle, right? And just because of the deep weakness of the backdrop. But anyways, let's see what we have on deck for us today. I'm going to start off somewhat neutral. You can read the daily trade strategy as I've outlined it. Let's see if these lower targets, the lower target at 35, one of the lower targets got fulfilled, and then the upper target at 65 got fulfilled. So uh, we use those two levels, 35, 65, as our initial sandbox parameters, and then we'll take it from there. Fair enough? Uh, very good. And the line in the sand today is 74.45. Yeah, we tend to have a super cycle after those type of failures. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Market tends to rebound very strongly. Is it risk off Friday? Well, we're going to find out, right? Yeah, or rebound Friday. Exactly, right? So just hang tight. Again, A plus trades only, right? To your plan. When you think about it, trading these indexes, it's different than trading a particular stock, right? Or investing. The mentality is totally different. So if you're investing, you're investing in the company's stock, right? For more of a longer term, and there's different considerations, right, go into your decision in terms of why you want to trade a particular, buy a particular company stock, etc., right? But when it comes to trading, and particularly index trading, as we're doing, right, none of that fundamental considerations go into the decision process, right? When it comes to you know intraday trading, it's just all price action, right? Where was the last low? Where were the last highs? And it's basically everybody, you know, making a decision on what they think the price is going to do, not whether or not this is a good company, has good fundamentals, right, etc. Has zero to do with that. Has everything to do with what everybody's belief is on what the price is going to do, and then they're gonna, and again they basically step up to the casino table, right, and place their bets, right? So again, that's really how it is, the reality of it. And so again, the core of what we want to do then is, we always want to try to be on the side of, who has the, let's say, larger hand, stronger hand. Let's put it that way, right? Who has the stronger hand? I'll go with them. So a lot of times, at least from my perspective, right, is watching the market action, watching what everybody else is doing for, some period of time. Uh, I want to see what everybody's doing. I want to see how the market is reacting at levels, you know, because once you're in, once you're placed your bet on the table, your viewpoint changes, doesn't it? When you're watching and you don't have any trade on, you don't have anything at stake. So your field of vision is much wider, and you can assess price action in a very, let's just call it, non-threatening way. But as soon as you're in there, and as soon as you take a trade, now you have something at stake, right? You're in there. You want that price to move in your direction, right? And so it becomes a whole different way of, viewing price. It's just natural what happens. You view it like, come on, it's like watching a horse race. You know, you place your bet out of the starting gate, going around the track, right? Yeah, come on, Seabiscuit, right? So make no mistake, it's just everybody trying to, you know, again, they're placing their bets, right, on the horse race, on the ponies, right? So the idea here for me, anyways, of what's always been, I want to see, like right now as we're looking at the price action, right? Again, it's just back and forth here, so there's no real edge, right? So it's like the horses going around the track, and they're all clustered together. Nobody's breaking out of the pack, right? So I'm just, in watch mode. Once I see, a change in that, and in a more influential directional move, yeah, then I'm going to start, paying more attention and wanting to play that directional, bias, right? So I don't care what Intel reported yesterday, or Nvidia reported, or Google, or anything else. Yes, they have a broader influence of market price action, but at the end of the day, you're just trading everybody. Everybody's trading against one another, their viewpoints. So like this action right here, back and forth, right in the middle. Again, this is where I don't diddle in the middle. I wait for a clear directional influence and then getting involved. That's my viewpoint. Everybody has a different one. That's fine. That's what makes the market turn and turn. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, I have 44.39. So boy, we in sync today. All right. All right, all right. Wow, we're in the middle. As I mentioned it, starting off the day in a neutral condition, right? Do we have a neutral condition? Seems that way. Seems that way. All right, so I'm just hanging out, everyone. I don't have a trade on at the moment. Don't see anything of worthiness at the moment. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Bum, 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 bum. Come on, Seabiscuit. I got my foot on the I got my foot on the gas and one on the brake. What song is that? There you go, Loris. There you go. I can drive 55. One foot on the gas and one on the brake. That's what you feel like, right? You're sitting there and it's like, you want to go, but it's like it's not going, right? So it's like I got one foot on the gas and one on the brake. I can drive 55. I don't know. These crazy thoughts come into my head like this. So it's funny because my wife will be saying something, right? And I don't know. I'm not. She'll say something, and all of a sudden, I'll like roll into a song, that matches what she's saying. She said, "Where does that come from?" It's how my brain thinks. So that's a good example of it. I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I have no position, and like, come on, giddy up, right? And then like those lyrics pop into my head. But got to be patient. Must be patient. My mother always said, "Good things happen to those who wait, and those that can't wait meet their fate." That's what she used to say. Should make up a song on that one, right? Good things happen to those who wait, for those who can't meet their fate. All right, so framing it out. All right, so 40s, 45s, again, right in the line in the sand zone, plus or minus 5. Well, we outlined that pretty well then for today. Now, let's get some directional move. You're launching single stock futures? Oh, that should be fun. Yeah, that should be fun. Another product. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know all the details. All right, so I don't know. Again, looking at prices need to kind of clear those 55, 65s, right? Try to get some directional push. Trying to move it higher. Suraj says I think the biggest of them all will have micros like the mag. Wow. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. They try to push it up and slam it down. It's the whack-a-mole game this morning. Smack 'em and whack 'em. Yeah. You know, it's like that kid in the stadium. You see that video clip? He wouldn't stand up for the national anthem, and the guy behind him gave him a smack across the head. Stand up, be respectful. Slap across the head. Slap him across the head. All right. So they can't move him up. Smack him down. Kind of looking more like a 60-minute bearish flag over here, right? You know, see if they take out those 35s, overnight low area. Remember, you don't have to be in a trade. You want to be in the trade, meaning you want to be in the trade according to your plan and the structure, right? You don't have to be in a trade. All right, retest of the lows here. All right, 35-ish, 33 is on the lows. So now after the first 25 minutes or so, again, now we're starting to see some intention. Well, we're one and out on the opening range ES and NQ today. One and out. All right. Long of crude oil, that's got target one, and stop is at break even on the crude oil opening long. Again, ES and NQ both one and out. All right, so at least at this point, we'll see. Again, they're testing the overnight low. See if we get some hold there. Again, if we get a bounce back up, perhaps that's playable for a little probe on the short side. Still just being very flexible. All right, so first test of overnight low so far, holding. D level on the NAS. Okay, cool. Yeah, 317.75. D level on the NAS. Thanks, Bruce. So if you're playing D levels, there it is on the NAS. I'm still thinking we're in this kind of two-sided range activity. So are we supposed to show? Well, you can select whether or not you want to show tomorrow's today. I don't have it selected. Tomorrow's levels today is no. Okay. So this is these are today's levels based upon yesterday's range. Okay. let's just move it. All right, let's see how it changes. Let me put that to yes. Okay, and that's tomorrow's levels based upon today's ranges right now, dynamically. Okay, you can see how they did change. All right, let's move those back. And that's at today's level based upon yesterday's ranges. So you can play around with that, certainly. You know, you say, hey, you know what about tomorrow's levels? If it were, you know, if the current range stayed where it was. Now, as the day unfolds, these ranges would change. You know, these levels will change dynamically. All right, but for the most part, like what I'll do in that instance when I'm going to use tomorrow's levels today, um, generally I'll look at perhaps later in the day to see what tomorrow's could ultimately kind of look like. So that's what I'll do there. Sometimes you could actually have a you know potential trades off of that, but for the most part, I kind of use that tomorrow's levels today more for planning purposes. And of course, you have your historicals if you want to put your historicals on when you want to review. Yeah, guys, keep asking questions like that, like what Oris is doing, because again, I'm here to explain, you know, all the tools, whatever we have, how to use them, kind of different settings if there are settings. Okay, so again, get as much out of asking me questions as you need, right? All right, thanks, Nicholas. Nicholas says, "Hey, thank you, David, for building these tools. They definitely keep me out of from bad trades." You know, sometimes it's tough to measure in terms of performance. You know, we all tend to measure the trades that we're actually in, right? Because you can measure the P&L plus minus. But what happens when you're following and your decision is because of X, you don't take the trade. Yeah, it's a period. I get it. Um, but the trades you don't take, okay? And how do you measure that? You know, I mean, you may inherently know, like I know much of what I do and the tools that I created is like if I'm following a certain rules, okay, that kept me out of the trade that I maybe I would have taken otherwise. It's really hard to measure that. I mean, you really have to be super diligent to say, well, I would have taken that trade, but since I didn't, then if I had taken it, well, how much would I have actually lost? I mean, you got to be super diligent on that, and I know I'm not, but I do know that there's many trades that I choose not to take that maybe I would have taken otherwise, and had I taken them, I would have gotten stopped out, right? It would have been a loss on that trade. So, it's just hard to measure that because we're really only measuring the ones we do take. So let's say use as an example. Normally, I would have taken the trade right at a level. So that would have been the normal trade you would have taken. But maybe you've decided to, instead of just taking the trade at the level, you're now employing the right side pivot rule as a new entry technique. All right. And then so maybe in the scheme of things, the right side pivot rule, yes, it's not as, the same entry point, but it also offers you, a little bit different, kind of risk profile. So it all depends what you're willing to take, and what you're, and again, comes down to kind of what the stats show and all that. But again, a lot of it needs to match, your, your just, your bodily reactions. Again, if you really have a difficult time just laying in an order at a level and getting, taking market heat, then wait for that pivot. So like something like that, you may be able to measure. All right, we are in on the A10 here, again, using the limit order style entry. Let's see if this works for us. Again, A10 has not been playing out well lately in these rhythms. Just not been playing out well. First rule about making money is not to lose it. Yes. I look at if by using a particular technique, it keeps you out of the trade that would have been a losing trade, right? I guess, that you can see that as well. I actually made money on that one because I didn't lose. But again, it all still comes down to you got to do the research, you got to do your, everything that I be mentioning. You still got to do the back testing, you still got to find the metrics. You still got to do all that stuff. Right? Just saying it, is just part of, the equation. You got to really do the research on stuff. All right. Your D level on the NQ, if you played that, thanks, Bruce, for outlining that. Again, you got your first target up here at the prior low. So the D level, that's on the NQ. Okay. How does the A4 on the top differ from the one on the bottom? Nothing. This one up here and this one down here, they're the same. The only one that I have up on top where the A10 is that if we get a runner, I can kind of use that as a trailing stop level to kind of keep in that runner that we talked about the other day. And on the top window, the trade is the A4, not the excuse me, the A10, not the A4. And of course, the one on the low window was strictly the A4. All right, let's see if we can get paid on the A10. Not yet. Okay, everybody, stop playing the A10 so the A10 can work. It's like it's not there this month. Only Toledo. Like it's not even there. Yeah, it took a vacation. It's on summer vacation. Holy moly. You know what's been working lately though, right? The BLTs. All right, the Barber Lopez trade. That's been working. That's taken front center stage recently. All right, I'll check with uh oh. Hmm. Um John, what you may want to do is go into the analysis group. Okay, reset it with the analysis group. Okay, so highlight the chart. Yeah, highlight the chart, go into analysis, and then reformat using the template. All right, see if that works for you. That should work. Let me know if you need any help or anything on that. All right. So Yeah, we got a 200 extreme, but it is ranging, so it's not really the best of positioning. I mean, structure for the 200 extreme. It's not really in the proper format for that, but it is a 200 extreme. Yep, absolutely. Good read. All right, let's see if this A10 works. Let's see if this A10 works for us. Man, it's like everybody. It seems like all the players are just like chasing each other. They're just chasing each other. My lean, my over lean, my overall lean right now. My overall lean right now is neutral. FYI. Hey, what happened there? I mean, I can't. Yeah, Trump tweet bomb. Yeah, select the Echo Dream. Well, we're just still in this range. That's all. This is the neutral range that we were talking about. Again, right now it's still playing out that way. Yeah, there's really no directional influence right now. Right, so or if you're referring to the MACD, mm, okay, that's below zero, but it's no, it's not really. No, I wouldn't make that inference. Yeah, I understand what you're saying and what you're looking at. I just would make that inference. Um, yeah, I mean, I haven't done much of anything today, manually. A couple of these trades in the auto, but that's it. I haven't really done much of anything manual at all. So if you haven't taken any trades, that's fine. Again, part of this sitting on the sidelines if it's not your trade, you know. Yeah, I wouldn't bother with it. Could be Russian mafia. Mm, okay. Yep. All right. The first hour here is in place, the initial balance, and we have really just a non-directional morning so far. Here's our 5-minute chart. Again, very much non-directional. Right. So we were looking for that neutral uh, viewpoint to begin the day, as I mentioned, right out of the gate. And again, it's not that I knew this in any way. It's just, I'm looking at in terms of like what happened overnight. We went up to our 65s, right? Came back down, rotated back and forth. And again, you can see here, even using the RTH session chart, right? What price really needs to get cleared and converted. This is the RTH now. Yesterday's RTH and today's, right? So what level would need to clear and convert? Well, remember, this is the opening range, right? Midpoint here. Okay. And that those are 60s. So again, at minimum, right? 60s, even during the RTH, right? So, and again, you have a high pivot up here from mid-afternoon, midday. So coming in today, you're saying, okay, for a directional move higher, right, what would need to occur? Need to see some strength above that 60-65 zone at minimum. Again, right? But at the same time, the way you want to state that is, for the bullish case, what would we need to see? Need to see strength above that 60-65. Okay, so if you state it in the bullish format, also keep in mind there's a bearish format, simply the opposite. So on the bearish format, right, if price comes up to the 60 area, right, for the bearish format, I'm looking for a rejection. So depending upon, I think most people tend to, I think I do that primarily is I'll frame something out in a more bullish format, but that doesn't mean I'm bullish necessarily. I'm not inferring that I'm, you know, bullish. And what I'm saying is the bulls need to do this. But at the same time, my thought process, the way I process it in my own head is, okay, that's what the bulls need to do. Well, the bears are obviously don't want that to happen, so that's the alternate scenario. I want to be aware of that alternate scenario. And then I want to be able to sit, and I talk about I'm agnostic about price action. That's partly kind of what I mean is that, okay, here's a bearish and a bullish scenario. I'm open to either of them. Show me what you want to do. And then, I may be like, I may be, okay, even digging down deeper. If the market fails to take out a high, right, I may decide to, take a probe, right, to the short side to see how that plays out. Vice versa to the downside. If it doesn't take out a level, maybe I, take a long little probe. Okay. Something that you're not really fully, totally invested in terms of position sizing, though you want to probe, see how it plays out. So, you really can't get hurt too badly on it, or shouldn't anyways. Remember, should always have a stop somewhere. Right? Don't enter a trade without a stop, even if it's a 10 point, 15 points away. Just have some sort of a disaster stop in place because again, you just never know. Doesn't mean you're gonna lose it. It means that if something seriously happens in the marketplace, I want to have, at least some protection out there. And then that allows you to be a little bit free with, kind of trading edges and things like that. If you have found yourself in the past or even currently attached to the price action to some level, like, you know, like some people are perma bulls, some people are perma bears. You have some attachment, you're a better long trader than you're a better short trader or vice versa. And that certainly that may be true. Maybe you have a better influence, to be long or to be short. That's fine. But try to work yourself to be, as agnostic as you can about the direction and influence on price. Right? Try to be just as neutral as you truly can. Not easy. I'm not saying it's easiest to do, but try to be. And then, again, and just say, okay, I'm just going to follow my plan, and we'll take it, one step at a time. So for the first hour, the Bulls and Bears have been beating the crap out of each other. Nobody's really made any progress unless you're super nimble, at the upper and lower edges. Outside of that, anybody else that's trying to like get in, in the middle-ish area there, just not has not, unless they're super fast, and scalping. Nobody's really gotten well paid today. Maybe the market makers have, but I don't think anybody else really has. Whew. I'm getting tired. How about anybody else? Wow. Yeah, seems that way, right, Bruce? Ooh. I think the Sammy Hagar "I Can't Drive 55" is the morning theme song, right? I think we got that right. Boy, I'm gonna have more fun cutting the lawn. Okay, so on the opening range trades, let's just pull those in. The opening range strategy is done for the day. Did not have a stellar day. The NQ and ES both got stopped out fairly early. The NQ on the right hand side did get the first target on the trailer. It did get stopped out at break even, so that was a small winner there. ES, NQ both gets stopped out. So that completes that opening range trade for today. Not really a great session on a Friday, but it is truthful, transparent, and not so profitable today. But we have good days and not so good days. All right, we got an A10 long here. Let's see if this one pays. I don't know. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another? Very trappy day today, I guess, right? I don't know. Hey, we may have a winner here. Who knows? Let's go. Spin the wheel. Then again, maybe not. All right, the A4 got the first target here on the short side. A10 is struggling there on the long side. Boy. All right, A4 out on the balance. Pretty much a scratch there. We're still alive on the A10. Let's go. My goodness. There we go. Oh, look at this. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. All right, first target out. Stops at break even. Like it feels like a big win after after the market hasn't been responding all that well on the 810. It's like you get your first winner and it's like, whoa. All right, high five, party on. There we go. All right, two scales. All right, it stops at even now. Holy moly. Talk about a rough one. All right, we got target 3 coming up. All right, third target out. Finally a winner. That's why I said, thank you, sir. May I have another? All right. Anyone have the cojones to take that one after several stop outs? I know it's difficult, hugely difficult, but sometimes that's what you just have to do. But just say thank you, sir. May I have another? All right, there you go. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Good job. All right, Libby took it. Libby, Libby, Libby. All right. I know, again, not easy to take, but sometimes you just gotta. That's you gotta take it's the hard ones, right? All right, so I'm going to bring stop up to first out, first exit on the A10 there. All right, so I'm going to bring my stop up to that level, and again, remember that final contract is you know uh, don't want to have it, should never be a loser, right? And if we can get something more out of it, terrific, but should never be a loser. All right, good. Now we got a runner going. All right, when things look bleak, right? What are they? What's it called? It's darkest before the dawn. When things look really bleak, that's when right? Don't short a dull markets, another one, right? Right. And so the chop, the neutrality. So now what's the directional move now we have? We get the upside now. So now we can begin to lean, right, on a directional move on pullbacks. Woohoo! All right. Nicholas says, followed my rules, traded my plan, and currently in on a runner. Nice. Nice, Nicholas. Good job. That's what we want to see. That's the way you do it. You're trading your plan on MTV. Tie straits. Yes. Yes, sir. All right. So now we're just going to hang on to the runner. Um, if we get a flip of the ATR4, then we can punch out. But yeah, great job. Good job, everyone. That's the way you do it. Well, the morning turned out to be decent after all. I was getting a little weary. Getting a little weary. All right, we are up to those 65, so this is kind of that next area that we were talking about, right? Yeah, guys, don't worry about it. The amount, okay, the P&L amount. Really, don't be concerned about the P&L amount, particularly if you're still new to all of this. Okay, it's really not about that, right? You want to build that momentum, taking that trade, managing it properly, even if it's just, a couple micros, whatever it may be. All right, in the early stages, that's what you want to do, right? You want to build up that momentum. You want to get, build that confidence, all of those things that go into it. Okay, you want to do all of that stuff. And again, it's not about, oh, I could have made X amount and I only made this amount. Get that thinking out of your head. Okay, that will come down the road. It's not about how much you're making, it's that you followed the plan. Right? Yeah, exactly. Might not be much, but it is a lot for me to get to this point. That's perfect, right? Again, it's all individual. Right? That's perfect, right? So you don't have to be, don't be too concerned, but if, again, right, everybody's at a different stage. Right? So, right? Good job, and, and just keep working it. That's all, right? Keep working it. Yeah, good as Jocko says, right? Yeah. Yeah, we'll see if this takes off though. Again, we're at this key area, but yes. All right, big snafu, good. It held. All right, now we'll bring our stop up to this low. All right, we're getting a nice push, super push. All right, we're gonna raise our stop up and keep trailing. All right, not much more to do here, just to trail. Not that far away from the cycle day one low. Still within striking distance, right? 75.04. Like I said, don't rule it out. I guess there was some positive news about China not giving weapons to Iran, so forth and so on. So maybe that was the result of that little pop, but it had an influence there. So that could have been the kind of influence for that. But even if it was, okay, even if it was the influence, what side of the trade were we on? Long side, right? So yeah, all right. So again, we didn't trade it because of that news, or if that news had the influence for the move. Seems that way. We'll tighten our stop up to 75s up here. Okay, so stop's tight now for the runner, and we'll be happy with that. There you go. All right, final runner. How'd that work out for everybody? Went up to our 85 target. Uh, yeah, it should build more positive structure for sure. I mean, it could still go, right? But again, it's in that key kind of a key area there, that 75, 85 zone. So we'll see. All right, John. John B's taking off for the weekend. Have a great weekend, John. Clocking off for the week, he says, and got a nice piece of that long. Super, John.